Welcome to the SportsCapping.com podcast with free handicapping advice, odds insights, picks, and predictions to help you beat the sportsbook. And now your hosts, Jack Jones and Brandon Lee.
Welcome to the SportsCapping.com free pick podcast. I'm your host, Jack Jones. Joining me today will be Brandon Lee to discuss Week 1 NFL and Week 2 college football. All the anticipation this week is certainly about the NFL. Brandon, are you excited to have meaningful NFL games back now that the preseason's over?
For sure, man. I wish there was a few better games, I guess. I don't think the slate's all that great, but definitely excited for the NFL to be back in action.
Yeah, I agree. There's not too many games that stand out as like, hey, this is a big playoff game. It's going to be a rematch in the playoffs or something like that. But it's definitely like the most popular sport for a reason. There's just nothing better than an NFL Sunday. Last week we talked college football, gave out 4 free picks. Unfortunately, we went 1-3 on those free picks. Brandon hit Colorado on Friday night. I missed on Utah State, Michigan State under. We both lost on Saturday. I lost with Miami, Ohio. And Brandon missed with Florida Atlantic. I think Week 1 is definitely the hardest week to handicap college football. Would you agree, Brandon?
It's definitely tougher. I think it requires a little bit more research. I overall had a very profitable week. Looking back on that FAU play, it really wasn't a smart play, just given the small line and how much Oklahoma probably wanted to send a message. But it's definitely one where you got to pick your spots and maybe be a little less active than you would be later on during the late year.
Yeah, for sure. It can be easy if you got your research down, and it's just it's a little harder when you don't see the teams play yet, in my opinion. It definitely showed up in our results, especially at least with the free picks in my case anyways. But we're still 87, 57, and 6 over our last 28 football podcasts. That's 60.4%. Very good. And finding free pick winners, I think, will be easier as the season goes on. This week, we're going to have 4 free picks plus 2 bonus NFL teasers for you guys, 6 picks in all. We're each giving out a free pick for college football on Saturday, followed by one for Sunday each. Let's get right into it. Brandon, give the listeners your free pick winner for Saturday.
All right, I'm going to take the Mississippi State Bulldogs minus the 8.5 points on the road against the Kansas State Wildcats. As much as I don't like betting against Kansas State at home, especially as a dog, I just don't see any way the Wildcats can keep this within double digits. Those that listen to our college football win totals podcast know how much I like this Mississippi State team and their new head coach, Joe Moorhead. I thought the hire of Moorhead was one of the most underrated coaching hires of the entire offseason in college football. He spent the last 2 years as the offensive coordinator at Penn State. He was, in my opinion, the mastermind behind the Nittany Lions revival. And I think we saw an indication of just maybe where Penn State's headed with their struggles against Appalachian State in Week 1. When he took over at Penn State the year before, they'd averaged just 23.2 points per game. His first season, he got him up to 37.6 points per game. I just don't think people realize how potent this Mississippi State offense is going to be. They showcased some of it in their Week 1 game. They put up 63 points and over 600 yards of total offense. I think a lot of people might shrug that off because it came against Stephen F. Austin, but they didn't have anywhere close to that kind of production in any game last year. One of the more impressive things for me is they did that without starting quarterback Nick Fitzgerald, who was suspended for the opener. I think Kansas State is going to have a very difficult time keeping pace offensively in this one. The Wildcats were very lucky to come away with the 27-24 win at home over South Dakota in their opener last week. They were basically dominated the entire game. They needed 2 late fourth quarter touchdowns, including, I think it was like an 80-yard punt return to give them the lead in the fourth quarter. They also had South Dakota had a field goal in the final seconds that went off the crossbar that would have forced overtime. The offense didn't score its first touchdown until midway through the fourth quarter. South Dakota might be a decent FCS school, but if you're a good Power 5 team, you should be scoring touchdowns a lot sooner than that. They got 2 quarterbacks that they rotated in Alex Denton and Skylar Thompson. Neither one of those looked good. Denton was 5 of 14 for 91 yards. Thompson was 8 of 14 for 61 yards. Both threw an interception. And we saw the Kansas State offense turn it over 4 times, and they racked up a ton of penalties in that game, which are two things that you don't typically see from a Bill Snyder coach team, and something that I think's a bit concerning going forward for that team. I don't know how they're going to move the ball against Mississippi State's defense. I think for Kansas State's offense to be effective, they have to be able to run the football. I think that's pretty evident with the quarterback play they got in week 1. I don't see it happening here against Mississippi State. They got one of the best defensive lines in the country. I think it's better than Alabama and Georgia's in the SEC, and probably just behind Ohio State and Clemson in the country. Another thing I liked with the opener with the Mississippi State and Moorhead in his first game is they didn't let their foot off the gas against an inferior opponent. Especially, with this game against Kansas State on deck, you think they might have pulled some guys and, just kind of coasted through the end. But if they're not going to let their foot off the gas against a team like that, they're definitely not going to stop scoring here against Kansas State. I think the respect the books have for Bill Snyder and the Wildcats is keeping this line from being closer to what it should be, which I think is around 14 points. We're talking about a Kansas State team that isn't expected to compete for a Big 12 title, and we're outgained by over, I think it was 133 yards a game in Big 12 play last year. I won't take a ton of road favorites at this price, but I'll gladly back the Bulldogs here at 8.5.
You definitely make some good points. It's not a game I'll be on one way or the other, but I think if I have to get on it would be on Kansas State because I just think this line is a little bit of an overreaction from week 1. It's been bet up from -5 up to 8.5, 9.5, and Kansas State did struggle with South Dakota, and I think that's the reason why. But South Dakota did make the playoffs last year. FCS, they won a game, then lost to Sam Houston State in the second round. And I think the only reason that game was close is because they lost a turnover battle 4-0, which is almost unheard of for Kansas State games. If anything, it'll have them refocused. It's never easy winning in Manhattan. The Wildcats are 46-15 at home the last 9 years. They still have a talented offense that returns 8 starters from a unit that scored 32.3 points per game last year. And the Wildcats are stout defensively. They've given up 25 or less points per game 5 of the last 6 seasons. Pretty impressive in the Big 12. Mississippi State, that win over Stephen F. Austin 63-6. They were 47.5-point favorites, so they covered the spread but barely, and we're supposed to blow them out even without having Fitzgerald. I think the talent edge definitely goes to Mississippi State, but getting Bill Snyder here as a home dog, I think is just too good of a proposition. He's 35-21 against the spread as a dog, as a coach of Kansas State, and 21-9 against the spread as a home dog. Also, good stat for that turnover trend. Kansas State's 21-4 against the spread their last 25 home games after a game with a turnover margin of -2 or worse. I'm going to go the other way on this one, Brandon. I won't be touching it myself, but if I had to, I would take Kansas State.
Yeah, I respect your opinion here, and you kind of backed up my thought process on this, that basically you're taking Kansas State because you like Bill Snyder and what he's done at home, and I get it, and it might come back to bite me, but I think the talent gap is massive in this one.
Mississippi State definitely has a big talent edge, and I don't blame you for liking them here. I'm going to go with Vanderbilt -8.5 over Nevada at home at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt just seems to get no love every year early in the season. They opened this season as only 3-point favorites at home against Middle Tennessee, proceeded to blow them out of the building 35-7, covered the number by 25 points. They held what was supposed to be an explosive Middle Tennessee offense to just 294 total yards. Now they're up against another supposed high-powered offense in Nevada, and I expect them to shut them down too. I like what Jay Norvell is doing at Nevada, making them a fun program to watch. It's an offense that put up 28 points per game last year and got better as the season went on. But the defensive deficiencies are still there, and they allowed 34 points per game, 471 yards per game last season. And I think Nevada is another team that's getting too much love here for their 72-19 shellacking of Portland State in the opener. But Portland State was 0-11 last season, one of the worst teams in the FCS. Nevada will be up against SEC talent here, and Vanderbilt, I think, will have the talent edge at every position on the field. Nevada's 0-4 against current SEC members. Wolfpack are just 1-11 in true road games over the last 2 seasons. And Vanderbilt's 15-2 when hosting non-conference opponents since 2011 and 10-2 when hosting a group of 5 teams since 2008. I don't think it's really too much here asking for the Commodores to win by double digits, cover this 8.5-point spread. So I'm going to take Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I'll probably stay away from this one. I was kind of hoping to get Nevada closer to double digits, but I would probably lean towards the Wolfpack in this one. I just don't trust Vanderbilt. They beat Middle Tennessee in the opener last year by a pretty similar score in 28-6, and they went on to just win 5 games. And you could argue that they actually played worse this year. Last year, they outgained the Blue Raiders by 152 yards. This year, they outgained them by 52 and actually lost the first down total in that game. And you kind of mentioned this. I too like what Jay Norvell is doing at Nevada. I love teams that can score points. I think they are very profitable against the spread, especially a team like this that I don't think many people are going to be on right now, especially after what Vanderbilt did in week 1. The Wolfpack got one of the best quarterbacks in the Mountain West in Taiganji. He needed just 16 completions to rack up 342 yards in the opener. I have concerns here with Vanderbilt coming off a big win at home against, a team that they were only a 3-point favorite against, and a much bigger game on deck against Notre Dame. So I would be cautious laying the points here with the Commodores, but I'll probably stay away from this one.
Yeah, man, I'm hoping to win this one in a blowout and then, come back on Nevada. Because it's a team I actually do like, especially once we get to conference season. But I just think it's a different level of talent here that they're going to be up against. So I'm hoping that outweighs, everything here for me.
For sure, yeah. We'll get a good idea on how good Nevada can be this year in this game.
For sure. All right, let's go to let's switch to the NFL here, what everybody's excited for, and everybody wants some NFL winners to start out the season. So, Brandon, what's your free pick for Sunday?
Yeah, I'm going to lay the 6.5 points with the Minnesota Vikings at home against the San Francisco 49ers. I think a lot of people will be hesitant to back the Vikings as almost a touchdown favorite against everyone's breakout team in San Francisco. I get why people are excited with the 49ers and, what they did at the end of last year, winning their final 5 games, all, after Jimmy Garoppolo took over at quarterback. I just think it has them extremely overvalued going into this season. Minnesota, on the other hand, I believe, in my opinion, is one of the most complete teams in the NFL. I think they made a massive upgrade at quarterback, going from Case Keenum to Kirk Cousins. People can say what they want about Cousins and his last lackluster record with Washington. This guy is legit. The only reason Washington wasn't better with him is they had no running game and a middle-of-the-pack defense. The weapons at his disposal are every bit as good, if not better, in Minnesota than they were in Washington. The big difference here is the Vikings should have one of the top rushing attacks behind second-year running back Dalvin Cook. And we know the defense is going to be one of the best in the NFL under Mike Zimmer. I don't think San Francisco has the ability here to keep pace offensively, and I just don't think they can do enough here, with how much pressure is going to be on Garoppolo to carry the load. The 49ers lost one of their prize free agent pickups in running back Jerick McKinnon. They brought him in to be their feature back. I think they're going with Alfred Morris. And when you can't run the football against a defense like Minnesota, it makes it very hard to move the football. And we're talking about a Vikings defense that led the NFL last year in points allowed and were number 1 in total defense. They got all their key pieces back on their stop unit. Plus, they added in a difference maker up front and defensive tackle Sheldon Richardson. I think they've heard all the praise the media has been giving Garoppolo and this 49ers team, and I think that defense is going to be out to make a statement. If you remember, these teams opened up against each other, and just a few years back, I think it was 2015 on Monday Night Football, everyone expected the Vikings to go into San Francisco and win that game, and the 49ers kind of surprised the Vikings in that game and kind of laid it on them. I think there's some payback in mind here. The other thing is I don't know that the 49ers have the talent defensively to slow down this Vikings offense, especially with, star linebacker Reuben Foster suspended for the first 2 games. And the even bigger thing here for me is just how good Minnesota's been at home under Zimmer. They were 8-1 at home last year, where they outscored teams by 11.4 points per game, like 25-13. They're 24-9 against the spread at home since Zimmer took over as the head coach, and they've gone 7-1 in the month of September, the last 2 years. So I'll gladly lay the 6.5 here. I think the Vikings are going to win this one going away.
Yeah, I'm on the opposite side of this one. Won't be a premium pick, but I would lean 49ers plus 6.5. Vikings have definitely been one of my favorite teams to back since Zimmer took over. Made a lot of money off of them, but usually they were in the underdog or small favorite role over the last few seasons. And 2018 may finally be the year that it's profitable. It's not profitable to back the Vikings blindly in every game. Odds seem to kind of caught up with them here already. They're being asked to lay a hefty price against an improving 49ers team in week 1. Have to win by a touchdown or more here to cover. So the 49ers were 1-10, and then inserted Jimmy Garoppolo, went 5-0. He made all the difference for this team. Now 7-0 as a starting quarterback in the NFL, with his time dating back to his time with the Patriots, and now he'll have more weapons than he did last year, simply with the healthy return of wide receiver Pierre Garçon, who was the number 1 receiver in San Francisco before getting hurt last year, before Garoppolo got there. Defense played better down the stretch last year, weren't on the field nearly as much, outgained their last 5 opponents by 108 yards per game. Now Garoppolo had a full offseason in Shanahan's offense, and I believe Shanahan to be the best offensive mind in the game. The Vikings are going through some big changes of their own on offense this season. Lost their coordinator, Pat Shurmur, now the head coach of the Giants. John DeFilippo will be a first-time offensive coordinator, so Kirk Cousins is going to have to get used to some new systems here. Might not come out, firing on all cylinders in week 1. I don't think Cousins is really much of an upgrade over Case Keenum. No question the Vikings have an elite defense, and that'll always be the case under Zimmer. I just wonder kind of if they have the offensive punch here to cover these kinds of numbers early in the year. So I'm going to take my chances with the 49ers as 6.5-point dogs.
Yeah, right on, man. I don't know what kind of quarterback play you're watching to think Cousins and Keenum are anywhere close to the same talent, but I respect your opinion.
We'll see this season see if Denver's any better. Speaking of, I'm going to take the Broncos minus 2.5 over the Seahawks as my free pick in Denver. Denver should be one of the most improved teams in the NFL this season. They're coming off a 5-11 year, mired in awful quarterback play. Actually wasted the league's number 3 ranked unit in total defense with an offense that just couldn't do anything. Now they got the underrated Case Keenum, who parlayed his success with the Vikings into a big contract this offseason. And he has ample weapons to work with: Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, plus should have an effective running game. And the Broncos will again challenge for the top-rated defense this year. That's the main reason I love them. Gave up just 290 yards per game last season. Should be even better considering they got the steal of the draft and Bradley Chubb with the number 5 overall pick. He was the top-ranked prospect in the entire draft, yet he fell all the way to number 5 because of all these quarterback-happy teams. Won't find a better pass-rushing duo than he and Von Miller on the outside. Brandon Marshall is a great inside linebacker, and the secondary is in good hands with 2 Pro Bowlers, Chris Harris and Darian Stewart. They could afford to trade Aqib Talib this offseason because Bradley Roby, he's a future star and earned a full-time role. The Seahawks, they're a team in transition right now. The Legion of Boom is no longer. Richard Sherman was traded to the 49ers. Cam Chancellor's out for the season with a neck injury, and Earl Thomas just ended his holdout actually today but his status is in doubt for week 1. Cornerback Byron Maxwell on the injury reserve with a hip injury. KJ Wright, doubtful with a knee injury. He was their second leading tackler last year. And they also parted ways with Cliff Avril and Michael Bennett. So this defense doesn't look anything like the dominant unit was a few short years ago. The Seahawks still have the same offensive line issues that have plagued them for years. Russell Wilson had a good season last year, but only because he had to. He led the team in rushing, and it was by a wide margin. No Seattle running back had more than 240 rushing yards last year. It's a crazy stat. And the Seahawks are limited at receiver this year because they got rid of Paul Richardson and Jimmy Graham, who combined for 16 touchdown receptions last year. And Doug Baldwin is nursing a knee injury to boot to start the season. So there's just a lot I really don't like about the Seahawks and a lot I like about the Broncos, especially defensively and improved quarterback play entering the season. And I think just get them as only 2.5-point favorites here, considering the state the Seahawks are in, is kind of a gift. Pete Carroll's 1-9 against the spread in road games in the first 2 weeks of the season as the coach of Seattle.
Yeah, I think you guys probably know where I'm going to go with this one. In my opinion, this line stinks. I think a lot of people are going to be attracted to Denver laying less than a field goal at home against, a Seattle team that no one really knows about outside of Russell Wilson, which, anytime you see a line in the NFL that looks too good to be true, it's typically not. I think Keenum, touching a little more on him and how I don't think he's going to be that good in Denver. I think his success, was a direct result of offensive coordinator Pat Shurmur. I don't think he's got near the weapons in Denver as he did in Minnesota. I also think Denver's going to have a really tough time running the football. They don't have a great offensive line, and they parted away with their, top rusher, 1,000-yard guy in C.J. Anderson. The defense will be good in Denver. That's no secret. But Russell Wilson is, one of those quarterbacks that can make great defenses look bad. And I just kind of like how the Seahawks team's flying under the radar going into 2018. I do have questions on both teams, so I probably will not play Seattle, but I would definitely lean that way.
All right, man. Yeah, I'm just really down on the Seahawks this year. I think they still get a little bit of respect because, the betting public has been all over them the last, 5 years, and they've treated them well. So they're getting a little – this line's indicating these are basically two evenly matched teams. But in my opinion, I don't see it. I think the pass rush of the Broncos is going to be all over Wilson the entire game. So I think that'll be the difference. I'm hoping so anyways, and but I respect your opinion on the Seahawks here too. Let's move on to our bonus NFL teasers here for the listeners. Who you like in week 1 for a teaser?
Yeah, I'm going to use my pick here with the Vikings. I'm going to do a 2-team 6-point teaser. I'll take Minnesota from -6.5 down to basically a pick 'em at -0.5. And then I'm going to do the Packers on Sunday Night Football at home against the Bears. We're going to take them from 7.5 down to -1.5. Two great spots here where you're getting a team, laying almost a touchdown to basically a pick 'em.
Yep, that's definitely a winning teaser strategy. I'm not going to argue with either of those. I just found two that I like better for 6-point teaser options. I'm going to take the Ravens -1.5 at home against the Bills and the Giants +9 at home against the Jaguars. The Ravens just have to win here against Nathan Peterman and the Bills. I think the Ravens definitely are a true playoff contender. Bills might be the worst team in the NFL this season. I also like getting more than a touchdown here at home with the Giants over the Jaguars. I think the Giants definitely a massively improved team, and the Jags take a step back starting in week 1. So I like that 6-point teaser. You okay with that one?
Yeah, I'll give you some agreement here on this podcast. Typically we have a lot, but I definitely like those two options, and we're considering them myself.
No doubt, man. I think this may be the first time we've ever gone basically 0-4 on agreement. And, as long as you win your 2 and I win my 2, I'll be 100% okay with it.
For sure.
Because, like I said, I don't have any premium picks on your 2 on the opposite way of just leans. So
same here. I'm just giving out my opinion on those games, and, I clearly don't like them enough to play the other side. So I would respect Jack's opinions on those for sure.
Yeah, man. I'm sure the listeners will be happy to know that too, because they're not used to the disagreement. But we have to have it sometimes. We just pick our games, blindly. We don't tell each other what games we're going to be playing up until the last, right before the podcast. So it's it's a nice way to do it. It's okay to have some disagreement sometimes. Look at it from another perspective. So Brandon's definitely one of the best handicappers here at SportsCapping, and I trust his opinion more than most. Brandon, let the listeners know how they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me at sportscapping.com/Brandon-Lee.html. You can also just head over to the SportsCapping homepage, scroll down to the college football leaderboard. Right now, you'll find me at number 3 overall. You can just click on my name there, and it'll take you directly to my page where you can find all my premium packages and long-term subscriptions. Coming off a solid 7-4 week 1 in college football, going for my 3rd top 5 finish in the last 3 years. Heading into the NFL season, having hit 62% over my last 53 NFL picks, including a 13-3 run on my top plays. And I really like this card. I know I said there wasn't a lot of great games, but I think there's a lot of great bets in week 1.
Awesome, man. I'm top 9 college football for the last 6 years, but I'm going to focus on NFL this one. Top 5 NFL last season. Went 59-39 on the NFL premium picks, 60.2% winners, riding an 83-55 run over my last 138 NFL releases. You can get my 2018 NFL season pass for $500. Check me out at betfirm.com or hit me up on Twitter at betfirmsjack. Be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes. Leave a review if you like the show. That's going to be all for this episode. Be sure to join us next week to discuss Week 2 NFL and Week 3 college football.
Thanks for listening to the SportsCapping.com podcast. For more free picks and predictions, be sure to visit us at SportsCapping.com.